All right, we are here for yet another episode of Shift, Getting Out of Your Comfort Zone. My name is Elena Agragimova. I'm your host. I'm super excited to have with me Moises Santos. He is an entrepreneur on a mission to revolutionize education. I'm so happy to have this chat with you, Moises. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me and having me on your show.
So let's just dive into it. So Moises, we're all about trying to get people out of their comfort zone and really help people live up to their potential. So talk to me a little bit about when was the last time you had a major change in your life? And, just talk to me a little bit about how that went about.
So I think the last time I had a big change in my life was right before COVID happened. I made a decision. I was was living in the basement of the house that I owned with my father. I was in the basement. My father was on the first floor. And obviously, as an entrepreneur, struggling, trying to build the business, build the team. I wasn't, making enough money to support the house. So I made a conscious decision. I was like, my family comes first. I was like, I'm going to rent out my basement apartment and I'm going to sleep on the floor of my business. So in February 1st of 2020, I decided to get rid of all my stuff. I sold all my stuff. I basically got all my belongings into the back trunk of my car. And I moved into the center and I would sleep on the floor with a bunch of yoga mats, a sleeping bag, a pillow, and a blanket. And every day, I would wake up at 5, 6 a.m., work out, do my thing. And I think that was the biggest change for me because I really had to learn to detach from the material items in the world that defined Moses as an individual. So my apartment, my house, my belongings, my bed, my couch, my TV, all these different things I detached from. And I think that was a pivotal moment in terms, I would say, like the second phase of my entrepreneurial journey so far. I think that was the biggest shift.
What inspired your entrepreneurial journey to begin with?
So I was a teacher for 10 years in the Bronx. And with my business partner, I was his client at the time. And we built a proposal to build our own school, $10 million grant over the course of 5 years. We then worked hard, built this proposal with a team. And we got to the final round out of 250 teams. They picked 4. We were 5th and we lost. So then after that, I made the decision to just quit because I was like, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. I was like, I want to build this school. I want to make my dream happen. This is what I believe can, change the world. So I left $80,000. My benefits, my security, all of that stuff. And I decided to go and into entrepreneurship. And then that was really the big motivator and still the number one thing on my mind.
You scratched an itch and you just couldn't go back, right?
Yeah.
Once you open the box.
It's hard because as human beings, we desire to feel alive. And I think I thought about the question. It's like, if I don't do this, am I going to regret it? And the answer was yes. And for me, it was like, if I die and I fail doing this, then I died happy man. I died trying and doing something that I believe in. And I think that was the most important thing for me. And, every day I feel alive. Every day coming in here, connecting with my team, trying to build something, creating from scratch. It's like being in love every single day, like falling in love every single day. It hurts sometimes, it feels great sometimes, but it's literally, that's how it feels like. So I wanted that feeling. I wanted to chase that feeling every day.
I love it. Entrepreneurship is like falling in love every day. It hurts sometimes and sometimes it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you think was the hardest part of taking that step of making this happen?
I think it's really just understanding my fear. Having faith in the fact that everything's going to be all right. And I think that was the hardest part. That was the biggest obstacle and hurdle to get over. Luckily, I have people that support me and help me. And, they encourage me to do what I wanted to do. Luckily, I'm one of those, the very few lucky individuals that are young and don't have kids and many responsibilities. So I could afford the risk. I know some people out there have a lot more responsibilities, and it's a little bit harder. But I was very fortunate at that time to have all of the right circumstances to be able to go out and pursue my dream.
I talk to other entrepreneurs, and the story is always sort of different, right? So some people, they lose sleep for like a week. That was my case, at least, and so many others that I've heard. It's like when you make that decision to make the jump, you just you go into panic mode. But then that's usually the you don't realize it then, but you realize later that was the easiest part, like to take that step. Is there anything in that moment for you that sort of helped you overcome that fear? So, because that's what a lot of people deal with, is that fear, like they're afraid to leave that comfortable job, right? And yes, it makes it easier when you don't have certain responsibilities, but even people that don't have certain responsibilities and have all the sort of resources there, the fear still takes over. Anything particular helped you or anyone? Was there a person?
So definitely my business partner, Rances. I brought up the idea. At that time, I was supposed to, there were two options for me because I knew I didn't want to teach anymore. I knew that it didn't inspire me. So I was seeking some type of transformation at that time. I didn't know exactly what it is that I wanted to pursue. I knew that I wanted to build revolutionize education. I didn't know how that was going to happen. So I thought there were two options. I was like, I can go to the Air Force, and I was going to go into the Air Force as an officer. So I passed the exam. I got accepted. That's when Trump got voted in. And they called me and they were like, all right, we're going to accept you as an intelligence officer. And my idea was to go to the military, get ranks, then get into government and change education through government. Once I found out Trump was the president, I was like, I'm okay. I'm good.
Take it back.
So then they were actually very upset at me. Then I decided to go, and I was like, you know what, let me just go and build the school. Like, I don't know how this is going to happen. And obviously that's the scary part, the uncertainty that comes along with that. But Rances was like, bro, that's entrepreneurship, man. Like, he's been doing it for over 10 years at that time. And he was okay. I saw him and I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. So, that's what made me jump off. Like, that's what made me, understand. I also watched this gentleman. I don't know. He's a life coach. He was also a comedian back then, but his name is Kyle Cease. And he gave a great example. He was like, if you take a child and you put a paint set in front of them, and then you take an adult and you put a paint set in front of them, who's going to have more fun? And it's the child. The child isn't going to care about making a mess, getting paint on the floor. It doesn't matter. The child's going to live in this place of love and just enjoyment and fulfillment. And he's making a mess, or she. And this adult is going to think about how not to get paint on the desk or how not to get paint on here and try to do all the lines as perfect as possible. And that to me was like the analogy. I was like, well, if I decide to make a mess out of my life, how much fun can I have? How much, what am I going to experience? What am I going to learn from this journey? Worst case scenario is I have a degree, I have experience in work. I can always go back and get a job,
Absolutely. I think that's such a great point. I think that's what, it's a good question to ask yourself, like, what is the worst that will happen? Like, what's the worst that will happen? And I think once you put down your worst case scenario, you realize it's not so much, like it's not so bad. And that will help you sort of get out of your own head and stop creating obstacles for yourself, essentially. So that's great. Is there, looking back, how do you feel now looking back at that jump? Is there anything you would have changed? Anything you would tell yourself at that time? What advice would you give for somebody maybe that's in the current situation right now and saying, I really want to do this, but something's stopping me?
I definitely think saving money would help. I did it at a point where I was just like, you know what? I don't care. I'll figure it out. I had no money. I was already in debt. So, I'm paying the consequences for that. But even that, I later learned more about finance, and I understood. I was like, it's a man-made object. It's something that, it comes and it goes. You can fix it. You have time. You have all these entrepreneurs that bankrupt and they're doing well. I was like, if if they figured it out, we can figure it out. Like, so the one thing I would like advise or probably change is like, all right, if I am going to do this, let me save some money. But then at the same time, I could use that and be like, would this have halted my, decision to jump off? So I don't necessarily regret it because I love where I am right now. And I love like the mess that I've created, but I know that I'm getting better. And like all these experiences have made me learn and forced me to make better decisions, to become a better decision maker, to become a better leader, to become a better coach, entrepreneur. So, but yeah, I would say maybe save money.
Be financially stable, yeah.
Yeah, be a little bit more financially stable. I mean, especially if you don't have responsibilities, I say go for it. Like, I don't care, just do it. If you have a family and you're supporting children and stuff like that, then you know what? Yes, I would say think about your financial like risks that come along with that. But at the end of the day, I also think if you have a family and you really want it and you want to support them and you want to do what you do what you love doing, then I think you'll figure out a way. Human beings are resilient. We're resilient species, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It just comes down to the mindset, right? Like that belief that you'll figure it out. And I think there are many entrepreneurs fall into this category where at one point as much as you try to kind of, have your stable job and income and et cetera, there comes a point that you just have to make the jump. Like it's just, and for some people it comes sooner than later, et cetera. But at some point you just have to go into your mission, so to say, full time. Otherwise it's very difficult to kind of move forward. So that's absolutely on point. And I love your point about the kid and the painting. And I think, and you can relate to this being a teacher, is that, or coming from that background is, as kids, we're told continuously what to do. We're conditioned in certain ways, right? And we're kind of bombarded with certain scenarios and situations in life that kind of make us a little bit less confident, maybe, as we grow older. So that by the time we get to that point where like we really want to paint, we have so many experiences that are stopping us from painting. And if I wish people would paint more, right? So use it as a metaphor. But so with your mission that you're doing now to revolutionize education, if you had a magic wand, what would you like to see happen in your work?
So what would I like to see happen? I'm going to reframe the question for my mindset. What am I going to see happen is the changing of how we deliver information. So we're in an age where technology and the abundance of information is so prevalent in our lives. So I don't believe that there's a need for our traditional teacher role anymore. I believe that our teacher role is going to take more of a status of facilitating experiences. My belief as a teacher, as a coach, as an entrepreneur is that emotion is the driver for all action. No decision for a human being is made without an emotion. When you decide to eat a food, there's a physiological response that happens in the body. That creates electricity, which creates electricity in motion, which is emotion. We then label that feeling, or the judgment of that emotion is a feeling, which then now creates our perception of the world. So our perception of the world determines the judgment of that feeling. So when we start to understand this, we understand that students, that human beings aren't going to make a decision unless there's a emotion behind it, whether it be fear, enjoyment, excitement, sadness, whatever the case may be, there needs to be an emotion. So if the intent of a teacher role is to basically make a student or human being feel alive again, so that they can apply a certain skill or knowledge that they were able to download via technology. And that's how I see education being revolutionized. We no longer need the teacher to stand in front of the classroom and deliver a 40-minute lecture. We want that teacher to deliver an experience. We want that teacher to become better at storytelling. We want that teacher to build a meaningful relationship with that child. And that's the key to revolutionizing education. And to me, that's what I believe is going to happen, especially with COVID. You know, we're seeing it more and more. It's like students can learn things on YouTube. Like, how many things have you learned on YouTube by being an entrepreneur, right? Like, when you want to figure something out.
Totally.
Exactly. You don't need YouTube, someone to teach you anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. We watch a video, we learn, we do some research, we Google. But then what's the application process of this information? There's an emotion. So even when we decide, like, hey, I need to become an influencer on social media, I need to market. Why? We know that leads directly to our revenue, and our revenue supports our lifeline. You know, it's our lifeline to, you know, being able to eat, being able to pay our employees, being able to pay bills. And that's it. There's an emotional driver behind all of that. And I think if we start to understand the psyche of human beings a little bit more as teachers, as, you know, educational leaders, then we understand that we can revolutionize and speed the process of learning for everybody.
I love it. And listen, I follow you on Instagram and I love the content you guys are putting out. Where else can people follow you? Where can they find you? Where can they get in touch with you?
So on Instagram at Moises, MOISES _moves a lot. Also on Clubhouse, we host a bunch of things, same tag name. I also have a website called dreamersmindset.com. And then the community that my team and I are building here, just go to VidaProject.com. That's VidaProject.com. And you'll find out all of the stuff that I do, my coaches, my team members, they're all on there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story.
Thank you so much for having me.